I think we're going to keep that. Hey, everyone. Thaddeus and Evan here with On Purpose Media and also HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, coming at you on a nice Thursday, where, I mean, our usual moniker on the show is any good conversation worth having drunk. So cheers.
It's Thirsty Thursday, so we're
Thirsty
good.
Thursday. So we're having a beer today in lieu of the whiskeys. But today it's a little bit different of a story here for you. So we know that we're coming up to the end of 2021 and you want to kick off your 2022 the right way and have the best success that you possibly can in your business. So how do you do that? And a lot of times people have set goals or they failed at them. They didn't really have the buy-in. They didn't really know where to even begin setting their goals at. And how do you tie that in specifically to your business? And we're going to walk through some of that, right? And so we're going to dive into today the how to plan for ultimate success in your business. From today is more about the goal setting aspect, and where it's actually a two-part series. So you see part one on the screen. Part two is going to be more of the implementation and the strategies behind it for the marketing side of things. And so it's a little bit different of a twist here for us to deliver to you guys to be able to give you the back end information. And in case you're wondering why I am going to be doing all the talking, it's because I'm going to be handling part one. Evan's going to be handling part two. But if you do have any questions for anyone, so you can feel free to drop those in the chat as we go through. We'll do our best to answer those as they come up. If you have a question that specifically pertains to your business and you might not want to share that on a group, we do have a couple options available here for you. You can send Evan a direct message on his Facebook profile. That is facebook.com/Evan Hoffman. Or
Hoffman
if you,
Evan.
Oh, Hoffman Evan, I just read it as your name. So my dyslexia was kicking in there full swing. It's the first drink of the day, I swear. Yeah, if you also don't have Facebook and you're watching this on YouTube or on LinkedIn and you want to reach out and ask us a question via text message, you can also text message us too. At the number, it is 719-824-1377. We'll respond back to that as well for the text messages. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Let's get her.
All right. So let's, that's not the screen. Well, how to plan for ultimate success in your business. So, well, actually, you know what? Let's go with this screen for a little bit here, just because we can. We have the power on here. So we're going to kick Evan off. You're going to see my beautiful face anyways, which is the more important face to look at versus Evan. So no, I'm kidding. We'll put this back up. So obviously we like to have fun. So today, what are we going to cover? What are we going to, to unleash here for you guys? So again, some of these might be in part two. Keep this in mind, right? So we're going to go over goal setting for 2022. So the numbers that you want to hit, how to find them, what's going to be involved in that. How do you make it specifically for your business? So beautiful, bro. I don't know who that is, Facebook user. So somebody within our Facebook group on there. I have a guess at who I think it is, judging by the first comment. So we're going to talk about some of the fundamentals of marketing success. Also, how to optimize your website for conversions in 22 and beyond. Some of the big picture of all your online marketing channels you should be tapping into to create the success that you want. Some of the latest trends, as well as developing a custom action plan based on where you are now and what you need to do now, along with crafting your marketing messaging as well. And so it's not just, hey, how do you set these goal numbers? It's, okay, what do you need to do in order to be able to hit those numbers from a business standpoint for you and your HVAC business? And that's what we're going to specifically dive into. So in terms of needing your attention, I know being pressuring with this, I kind of have a tough time saying close Facebook because you're probably watching this on Facebook. I know at least some of you are watching this on Facebook. Some of you are watching it on YouTube. But try to eliminate your distractions, right? Be present and in the moment for us today, because some of the info that we are going to talk about could change your business and your life for the better, especially if you're, I knew it was Jonathan from Loyal Home Services. So judging by that comment. So, but it could change your business and it could change your life. Our goal is to get you in and out of here in and around the 45-minute mark here for today. And then obviously diving into part two, a little bit later on. So now, if you stay to the end, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you a special little incentive for staying all the way to the end to help you and your business out. And we're going to digest this come part 2, but it's our internet marketing checklist, right? So the ultimate internet marketing checklist for HVAC contractors. We are going to cover that more in detail, but you can sign up for that. I'll show you the link at the end in order to be able to get that. So you got to stay all the way to the end, help you out for your 2022. Who we are.
The one thing I will say before that as well, Thad, is like the point of this is really to get the most out of your business. This is for you,
Yes.
right? The way that you're going to get the most out of this is by being interactive. Like, yeah, you can sit there, you can watch, you can take notes. That's great, but you only remember 10% of it then, right?
Yep.
If you interact and you engage, you're going to get way more out of it. You're going to be way less bored, even if you are having a few beverages with us, right?
Cheers.
But you're going to get way more out of it if you're interacting and you're asking questions. So feel free to fill up the chats, ask questions, ask all the questions that you have. There is no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question is the one that you don't ask, right?
No
So
such
feel free
things
to
as
reach
stupid
out.
questions, just stupid people.
There you go. Or that.
Yeah.
Right. So make sure if you got a question, ask it. Okay. We're here to help.
Also, if you are on Team Replay and you're watching this after the fact, ask your questions as well. You know, we have the way to reach out to Evan. You can even reach out to me via Facebook as well. Or you can text us. That text number, by the way, isn't just for today. That's an anytime thing. If you ever have a question, feel free to shoot us a text and do that, because we're here. Our core values, when we look at what it is that we do at On Purpose Media, we have honesty, integrity, transparency, and value first. Those are really when you boil down our and they're always interchangeable in terms of no one is more important than the other, but we want to lead from a place of servant to serve you in your business. Because if we can help you achieve your level of success, that's what really matters to us. And that's why we do what we do. So thanks for bringing that to my attention, Evan. So who we are. So obviously I'm Thaddeus, Evan. If you don't know us, obviously we're on some of our platforms. So you guys probably know us. We are the co-hosts of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. We're also digital marketing experts, also coming with a decade of business experience as well as marketing experience. So to back that up a little bit and kind of give a little bit more of a backstory myself and Evan for his backstory and what we have there. We've came from marketing, even beyond that, sales experience, meaning in selling Cutco knives, right? Everybody asks, well, where did you learn how to do what you do? Well, it's a variety of everything that we've done, and pulling that together from all of the experiences, whether, for myself, that's selling Cutco, selling cars once upon a time, managing condo buildings, being an account rep in an elevator company, doing print magazines. The other part, one of the things that I did is I started the first ever print magazine for this company in Western Canada, the fourth ever in all of Canada, in a new concept into the Canadian market, and took that to, I think 35, 45 magazines by the time it was done in terms of the division that we were in, and learned quite a bit about marketing in there. And we started our business as a result of having conversations with business owners that, people have, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, people have been burned at some point by a marketer, right? At some point in some time, they either paid money to somebody and they fucked off, and they just disappeared. So they were left holding the bag, or they paid money and the results were shitty or subpar, or, hey, you know what? They also paid money and they had a really good experience. There are those ones out there that happen with that. And that was one of the reasons why when we were doing our print magazines, like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's why we have our core values. And so that's a little bit about us. Obviously, I'm a straight shooter. I kind of one of those people that just says whatever's on my mind, good or bad. So sometimes it gets me in a little bit of hot water. So that's a little bit about myself. Evan?
Yeah, like Thad said, we started print magazines. Before that, I sold HVAC. I was a comfort advisor for a company. I got hit up by a headhunter. And when I was working for that company, the one thing that I noticed from them was they didn't really have a sales problem. They had a marketing problem. They had a hard time bringing in leads. So brought up some suggestions, showed them how to do it, helped them fix it. Business took off. I fucking fell in love immediately. I was hooked. And I knew that I could do more than just sales. and having a real impact on the marketing side impacts the sales department. It gives them the opportunity to go out and sell more. So that's when I got into the print magazines, started doing it locally here. I ran 3 myself personally, and then was in charge of the greater Edmonton area and helping other people launch their magazines. So I had a blast doing that. But the frustrations and the pains, again, like that's what On Purpose Media was born from, was frustrations in business and not having a transparent marketer that had really high integrity. And so that's what we strive for every day. So there you go.
Perfect.
Let's get it.
All right, let's go. So again, this is what we do, right? We grow businesses all through our honest, transparent, and value-first approach, right? And this is our specialty. So, here's a question for you guys. What's the hardest part about marketing your HVAC business online? Right? If you have an answer to that, or what you think is the answer, drop that in the comments on what you think. There's a variety of different answers out there, and when I look at it and saying, okay, well, what's the toughest part about marketing your HVAC business online is there's so many options, right? And you don't know where or who or with who to spend your money because of all these different things, right? What matters for one business and what works for one business doesn't necessarily work and matter for another business. And we see this all the time. You think about this in some of the Facebook groups that we're in and that we're part of, and that you see the question of, I have X amount for my marketing budget. What should I do? And you see 30 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 30 different answers. And that is because everybody has a different thing, a different measurable stick, a different idea, depending on where their business is at. What's working for a business that is $10 million isn't going to work for a business that's $1 million, right? And there's those different things that are on there, right? And like, as we see here, right? Tracking the ROI, one thing, another one, tracking the return, what's working and what's not. And you have all these different things that you can do within the framework of your marketing. And it's tough to figure that out, right? Our goal by the end of this 2-part series, by the way, is to help you give a crystal clear plan on what's going to work for you and your business and where you're at, and also give you some homework to be able to figure that out yourself. That's part of our goal within this webinar. So, and as you see here in this graphic, like, what do you do? I mean, there's 8 different things on this slide that are everywhere, right? And like, as you see here, Ken Hale, be sure to have all your marketing channels complementing each other and working in unison. And that's what this graphic is. I mean, this is almost should be a wheel that connects everything together, because when you have everything working in unison, and it starts, almost from the brand up. And I know branding isn't necessarily on here because this is something that we're not talking about the digital side of things. But you think about when you have a brand in place, right? When you have a consistent message, and we'll get into messaging later, but when you have all that consistency, everything else fires and works better. We hear Dan Antonelli always say the most expensive logo and the most expensive, most expensive logo that you've ever paid for is the one you paid the least for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you have a shitty brand, if you have a shitty image, that doesn't translate well into online success. It's tougher to replicate. But when you have a great, you can still have success with a shitty brand and a shitty image. But when you have a great brand and a great image, you're going to have an even better level of success online. So that's where it starts at.
The other thing that Dan talks about is, I love the quote from Roy Williams that he always mentions, which is overspending on advertising is the tax you pay for being unrememberable or unremarkable, right? So investing in your brand to have a strong presence, to have a solid truck wrap, to stand out in the marketplace is huge, right? It pays dividends by allowing you to save money on your ad spend or make your ad spend that much more effective for you.
Yep, 100%. So the other one that a lot of people say, I've been burned in the past, right? We kind of chatted about this a little bit too. And that's, how do you have a trust in internet marketing when there's so many people fucking other people over in the marketplace? It's like, there's really no other way to explain that. And we see this day in and day out, again, with some companies out there in not having the transparency behind things in terms of what they do. I'm not going to get too far down that rabbit hole, because I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and say something that I don't want to say, but do your homework, guys. Like a great thing to know is to say, okay, well, Do I own my marketing material if I stop paying you to do my marketing? What happens to that? Doesn't your website go down, or does your website stay up? If it stays up, cool. If it goes down, well, they didn't do you justice. If you're running Facebook ads or Google ads and paid traffic, are they building those assets in your account? Can you see what's happening in your Google Ads account? Or is it just you're paying X amount of dollars, included on that is Y ad spend, but you don't actually see the result. You don't actually see anything in there. Because if you don't see that, you need to be able to have that. Because if you ever stop leave them and you go to market with somebody else, guess what? You're starting at zero all over again. So make sure that it's built in your account, your assets. And hey, if they want to do it in their account, their Facebook ads account or their Google ads account, okay, that's fine. But have access. Be able to see what's happening in there and have that transparency to eliminate being burned in the past. Okay. So a lot of times, again, when you talk about spending money on marketing, I had this conversation, and it's not necessarily about being burned in this slide. It's about, I've spent money, but I didn't get anything in return, right? That's that ROI that came back up again, right? It's because there's no clear plan in place to your ad spend. The other part is it's not tied into your business goal. So how do you tie your marketing into your business goal? We'll get into that. You have no why. And your marketing team and your marketing partners also don't know your why. Okay. And the last thing is not hitting key metrics based on your business. So right. So let me touch on that one for a second. So what are your key metrics as a business? What are and we'll work through a worksheet here too as well. But do you know your average price, your average tickets? Do you know your conversion rates? Do you know your closing rates? Can you work those backwards to be able to build a marketing plan that works for you and your business based off of your numbers? If not, by the way, we have a great resource. You can text us, or you can hit up Evan for that resource. It's a marketing calculator. It's a little bit more complex than what we can do today on the webinar, just because it's individualized for months and ratios and whatever. So we want to it's pretty intense. So, but having that. So anyways, enough preamble. Let's get into it. Copy of the worksheet of what we're going to go through. bit.ly. That is not a spam. I just couldn't figure out how to do on purpose media / game plan and forward it to a Google document prior to the show. There's our transparency thing. So bit.ly /OPM game plan. Evan's probably furiously typing that into the pop-up window to be able to have that open. And that will also allow you to work along with some of these things that we're going to go through and that we're going to talk about to be able to help you guys out with your business and where you're at. So, all right. So you need to start with the end in mind. That's the very first thing. And so people are like, well, okay, well, what's the end in mind? You need to create the plan, but you also need to tie it to your why. And people hear this and they're like, okay, well, what do you mean like a why? Like, money? That's what people think when they hear the why. Now, why are you doing what you're doing? If you can answer that without tying it towards money, and by the way, there are some people out there that will be okay with tying that towards money. Okay. There are a small percentage of people that are motivated by money, but by and large, humankind is not motivated by money. Motivated by things that money can get you, sure. So some of your whys, right? I look out into my kitchen in my living room and I see my beautiful 5.5-month-old son and my wife. And that's one of my big whys. The first day that I held my son in my hands, I'm like, man, my life has completely changed. So I'm doing it for my family, right? The other part of my why, let's see this, I'm telling you my why, so you can kind of get an idea of how to come up with a why. One of the other things of my whys would be able to do the things that I want to do with my family when I want to be able to do them. Creating time to be able to do that so I can enjoy life with my family, not at the end of my time saying, man, gee, I wish I spent more time with my family. No, it's like, great, I had an amazing time. with my family. Evan, let me ask you, what's your why?
Same thing, man. It's family. It's all about family. To be able to give them the life that allows them the freedom and the ability to choose is really what I want to provide for them. And also to be able to live where other people vacation is a big dream of mine. Just to create the life of my dreams and to ultimately provide more value than anyone else could possibly expect of me. Leave a legacy.
Leave a legacy, right? And those are, see, notice how we didn't talk anything about what our income goals are. I mean, we have income goals, sure, but it was all about our family and what that income can do with our family. So that's why I challenge you to come up with a crystal clear why that is not tied in to dollar bills. Dollar bills, y'all. All right. I couldn't resist saying that. I don't know why, but dollar bills, y'all. See, it's weird. Most times when I used to give these messages, you think back to our, our Cutco days, right? And selling knives and even our magazine days, and running through these talks in front of a room of people and a group of people or on conference calls. And you couldn't say shit, fuck, piss, like none of that. I almost said a different word, but I'm like, nah, I should probably wait till Tuesday to say that one, or Monday, so I can say see you next Tuesday. So, but see, I wouldn't have even been able to say that, and that's part of what I like about what it is that we do. So, this is also a ton of fun. People are like, "Well, you're doing this at like 6:00 at night." I'm like, absolutely, but we're having fun and doing it. So, anyways, I don't remember where I was going with that, but so create the plan. Okay, so now you have your crystal clear why. You know why you were doing this for your business. Okay, well, now let's work on some of the numbers and create a plan for you guys based off of your numbers. So I like the acronym SMART goals. So it's weird. The S is spaced out, but I'm looking on like the master sheet over on my other screen, and the S is not spaced out here. So same with the measurable. Like, I don't know what happened there, but like I literally, again, I'm looking at the PowerPoint over here and it looks fine. So I think what happened with StreamYard is when I uploaded the file as an actual presentation. So you can actually click directly on our screen to go in between. That's what I'm thinking has happened on that. So anyways, SMART goals are one of my big fans and my favorite ways on how to plan out goals, because they give you, as you can see in the bottom, they're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're time bound. And you can create a structured plan around that. And when you have SMART goals, they're going to be tied into bigger things than just a number on a piece of paper, because now you've got check marks and balances along the way in order to be able to do that. So specific goals. All right. Pretty straightforward, guys, right? Specific is, well, what do you want to accomplish, right? Speaking of family, I think it's bedtime for this little one. So we have a habit and a routine in our house to say goodnight. So good night, little man. Yeah. So have a good sleep. I love you. So our routine is, no matter what we're doing at the time at the house, if I'm on a meeting or not, we say goodnight and we say love you to our baby. So and vice versa, if I'm doing the bedtime routine, that is something that we go and we make sure that he says goodnight to everybody. I mean, he doesn't actually say goodnight. He's 5.5 months old, so he's basically a little blob who smiles. So and actually, I just see the one coming on the side, and I do it for my family and give them the life I never had growing up. That's powerful, right? You hear that story a lot, to be able to, depending on your upbringing and in your why. And I consider myself fortunate to have the upbringing that I had. And I want to continue to give that same sort of an upbringing to my kid. And that's, part of it. So anyways, there's my little squirrel. Back into specific, so when you think about this and, okay, I want to hit, what is your revenue target, right? You want to go from 1 million to 1.5 million, 5 million to 7 million, 10 million to 15 million, right? What is your target that you want to hit in 2022? Okay. Now, then break that down into how much is that monthly. Okay. You're going to know based on your area if you're going to have the make rain months, where you're going to be busy and flat out in the summer, and then it's a little bit slower in the winter or completely dead in the winter, Or if you're like Canada, it's busy in the summer and then it's slow for like a month and then it gets cold as fuck and furnaces are rocking and rolling and it's busy all winter, right? But again, knowing your business, right? This is why it's not a cookie cutter approach, because you can break this down. I mean, it's an easy stretch or an easy thing. You could go, okay, I'm going to do 1.2 million. That's $100,000 per month. Cool, right? Or you can massage that around and say $50,000 in December and the rest in, other months and higher throughout the summer, right? I'm not going to go through all those numbers because this is, again, I have some examples on the next slide. But then, why do you want to hit it? And I'm not talking about the why from before. I'm actually talking about, why do you want to hit this specific goal? What's it going to mean to you to do this goal? Is there, and we'll get, it's actually something that's not on here is the last one. It'll be smarter goals with a reward at the end, right? So what is it that's going to motivate you to be able to accomplish this goal, right? And get specific, drill that down. So on that worksheet, by the way, you can make a copy of that worksheet and you can actually fill that out yourself just by file, make a copy. It's a Google Doc.
Yeah. So does everyone have a copy? Just throw one in the chat if you've downloaded your copy already. You found the link. I threw the link in the chat and all the different places that we're broadcasting here, but just want to make sure that you got it. Just throw one in the chat really quick. And then also want to make sure, like, one of the questions that I got earlier this week, which if you were listening to the podcast last year, you would have heard it there too. Some people question, like, what's the purpose of the goal? Why would I even need a goal? Like, I want to do my best and I want to go out there, and at the end of the year, we'll see where we end up. Well, if that was your plan for a family vacation, to see where you end up, do you think your spouse is really going to be happy with you? If you just got in the car and said, all right, here we go, you might end up in fucking New York. You might end up in Delaware. I don't know too many people want a vacation there, right? At the end of the day, you need to have an end destination that you want to go after, something that you want to chase, something that excites you, something that fires you up and fires your team up, right? Because the purpose of a goal is not to achieve the goal. The purpose of a goal is to stay appropriate in the moment. It's how do you control your moment-to-moment decisions that are going to ultimately end up at that destination that you want to get to. So that's why it's really important to have a specific number, something that you are going after, that your team can rally behind, that is going to draw people in. Okay. And it's really specific.
Oh, and I'm going to show a good example of, what's something that your team can rally behind. Okay. Teams don't rally behind total revenue numbers. I mean, some do, but the majority don't.
Sales team will.
Some do. A sales team, 100%. But by and large, as an organizational whole, if you say, I want to hit $1.5 million this year because I want to go on a super awesome, extravagant family vacation to Hawaii with my wife and kids because I work so hard to hit my business, they don't give a shit about that. They're not going to say, I worked hard for you, business owner, so you could take your wife and your family on this super extravagant vacation to Hawaii. No, they don't give a fuck. But if you turn that into, I want to help, or we're going to help 350 families upgrade their heating and air system this year so they can live a comfier life in their house. And when we do that, the entire team is going to get big screen TVs.
Or whatever
is, right? I'm making that up. And so now you've put that into something that they can control. Every single team member can control that specific number, right? The CSRs, they can control that by having a pleasurable experience when they're having their call, right? The techs can do that by having great turnovers on service calls, right? Obviously, your sales team, they're already going to do that because that's what they're designed to do. But everyone all the way through can buy into that goal because it's a team effort to get there, right? You can see how that reframes it. So once you have that specific goal, transfer that into something that your team can get around. So this is, again, is an example. What is your revenue target? 1.5 million. How much is that monthly? 125,000. What months will be higher? What months will be lower? Or will it stay the same throughout the entirety, of it? So now once you have
that is something not to overlook as well. Is make sure you break it down on a monthly basis. Because let's face it, for most businesses, December is not going to be the same as July. Right. So take a look at this last year. look at the percentages of your total revenue came from each month. Use that as a guideline when you're setting your goals for the next year.
Yep, super important, because then you're not going to get too high and too low on yourself on those goals either.
Yep.
You'd be like, oh shit, we had $125,000 monthly goal in December, when in reality it's more like a $60,000 month, or possible to stretch yourself into that, right? And again, we're making random numbers here, so next thing is, how do you measure this, right? What's the measurable aspect of things? Okay. So what is your, and we can fill these out. So, what is your things that you need to know? What is your average ticket for each service, right? So service versus installs, right? Or if you offer other things, if you're also doing a plumbing company, what's your average ticket for plumbing? If you do an IAQ, what's your average ticket for IAQ? In building those things out, so you know what your average tickets are. From there, you need to know what your percentage of revenue comes from service versus install. Or again, if you have other lines of business, which ones are coming at. You can look through that by your last year's books. Now, some people might be like, my last year's books, what? Get an accountant, get a bookkeeper, get on a software program that will help you with these numbers. Okay, whether that's House Call Pro, Service Titan, Sarah, etc. There's a lot of different ones out there. Heck, even QuickBooks with a bookkeeper, right? Knowing your numbers is a super important thing. Performance monitored is performance gained. Now, from that, how many calls are you going to need? Now, like inbound calls, right? And how many calls you're going to need to perform. So these numbers, by the way, they're quantifiable numbers, okay? Because you can actually build this off of what your numbers are. So some examples, okay? So what is your average ticket for each service? It could be $500 for service to $10,000 for an install. Again, these are just random numbers that I plucked out of everywhere, mainly to make my math life easier when I did these examples in advance. So again, some people are like, well, my average ticket for service calls is $300 and my average install is $8,000. Some people are like, well, my average service ticket is $1,000. My average install is $15,000. Cool. Those are your numbers. You can plug and play those however you need. Okay. Then what percentage of revenue comes from service versus install? Again, 70% install, 30% service. These are your numbers. Make that up. So how many calls will that require? 105 installs completed and 900 service calls completed in order to be able to hit 1.5 million based off of $500 average service ticket and $10,000 for install. In case you're wondering, you want to double check my math. You can see that on the bottom, the math. So I took 1.5 million times that by 70% equals just over $1 million from installs. Divide that by 10,000. Now you've got 105 installs. You do the same math for the service calls, right? And so now you have some data and some numbers based off of your business. I'm purposely pausing there for those that are in the worksheet right now. By the way, if you are watching this on the replay, this will be hosted live on our YouTube channel. It'll exist there. So you can
go back and rewatch.
Yeah, go back and rewatch it. Sorry, I was looking at the comment that showed up with the Google Docs, but so you can go back and rewatch it, right? It's going to be live there. It'll live there forever in eternity until we delete it, which will be never. So you can go back and you can pause this. You can watch this back again when you plan for 2023, although we're going to do the exact same thing for 2023, but we're probably going to add a bunch of cool stuff to it from there. So again, making sure that you understand your numbers. Okay, now that you have your measurable part of things, right? You have your, you can measure this, right? You know how you're going to have your yardsticks. See this, by the way, 105 installs, 900 service calls. That's where your team can buy into. Okay, those are some data numbers your team can buy into. Okay, now is this goal attainable? If you're a $1 million business, it's not necessarily attainable for every business to hit $10 million that next year. Now, you notice I said not every business, because there's some businesses that can do that, right? But make sure that these numbers are achievable for you, right? But also boiling this down. So now we've talked a little bit about, okay, here's how many calls you need to run, both installs and service calls. How many leads do you actually need to hit that goal? Well, let's work on this, right? So if you have a conversion rate of 30%, by the way, the conversion rate would be through all of your marketing sources. So if you had 10 calls come in via Facebook ads, Google ads, your Google My Business, and referral sources, 10 phone calls come in, you're going to book 30% of those into an actual physical service call or an install, right? I plucked this number from the middle of the year too, by the way.
Here's a question for everyone right now. Do you know what your booking rate is on marketed calls? Right? Do you know that number?
Yep.
I'm curious. Can anyone put it in the chat right now? Do you know your number? And if you don't, that's okay. And it's not okay. Right? I understand why you might not have it.
Yep.
Okay. Great opportunity to look back over your year and figure out what that is. Right? So Thad, how would you figure this out?
Well, how many phone calls did you have come into your business? And how many calls did you perform?
Exactly.
That's basically the easiest way to do that. Now, if you're like, what? I can track my phone calls? Yeah, you can actually track your phone calls. In fact, I would highly encourage tracking phone calls from a variety of different sources so you know which source is bringing in what. And also, Google Analytics is in terms of like your website and your conversion rate on your website is also good to know. So your branded searches are probably going to convert a little bit higher, like 40%, versus a marketed lead or a cold lead is probably going to go around 20%, 15%. And again, if you average and blend those out, you're going to get in and around 30. Again, it's a random number that I plucked from there. I mean, some are going to be higher, some are going to be lower. So, and yeah, so Service Titan can track this too with some of the numbers. One thing we've heard, again, this is just a one-off that we've heard of with Service Titan's tracking numbers, is that there has been some issues of people being placed on hold for too long when a representative is available. So just something to be aware of. And that's not just Service Titan specific. I think that's just call tracking numbers in general specific. So just something to note and be aware of. So you have that aspect of things for your business. Okay. So now, apparently I can hit the enter bar and it can go to the next slide. So that's fun. I get excited and talk with my hands. Great comment there. Word of mouth is difficult with Service Titan because they come in through the word of mouth and they're going to search the business out, right? And that's what I mean by a branded search. So is if they call your business or if they Google your business. So if you're ABC Heating and Cooling and they Google that and they show up and they're going to click through your site, that's what a branded search is. And if you have analytics done, they can also track some of that as well, or through some of your SEO providers as well. So
yeah. So here's a great question here. So Derek asked, when he's got Google, it's easy to track it with LSA because everything is done through LSA. It's done for you, right? Yep. So by utilizing different services, things like we use OmniPoint with our clients, where we can put all the tracking numbers into there, regardless of what their system is. So whether you're on Service Titan, House Call Pro, Field Edge, doesn't matter. We can track everything through that, right? Yellow pad technology, even. There you go. Where those leads are coming from. With Google Analytics, you can set up UTM parameters on any link that you put in, so then it gets tracked properly with the visitor to your website. So if they go to Yelp and then they come to your website, it gets tracked properly and properly accredited within your Google Analytics account. So there are things that can be set up so that tracking can be done for you. That's kind of the beautiful thing about technology. One of the unfortunate things that's really hard to track is someone sees a billboard or your truck driving by or in the neighborhood, or here's your radio ad, and they don't call you. They look up your business name on Google.
Yep.
Now Google's going to get credit for that lead when they actually heard it from another source. So those are the only ones that are really difficult to track because most people don't phone the phone number that they hear in a radio ad. It just doesn't happen, right? But the name can be catchy enough that they'll look up your name on Google.
Yep. And that's where that goes back to that very first thing that, the branding comment, right? Making sure that that's there and memorable and present on that. And then it goes from there. So, all right. Leads needed. So if your conversion rate is 30% and we have those numbers from before, we have the installs of 105, the service calls needed of 900. Well, how many leads do you actually need in order to be able to hit the numbers? Okay. So installs needed is 105. Divide that by 0.3 or whatever your conversion rate is, 0.4, 0.2, 0.15. So it's essentially a percentage, and then just move the decimal 2 places to the left, equals 350 install leads needed. Or if you're doing service calls, 900 divided by 0.3. You could also times that by 1.3 if you wanted, but I'm actually no, that way would work. Never mind math. Would be 3,000 service call leads needed in order to be able to get that, right? Now, here's another thing to potentially look at to be able to really fine tune your numbers. Do you have a different conversion rate for installs? And do you have a different conversion rate for service calls? Okay. That's really getting into the nitty gritty to be able to really plan that. We're leaving this pretty basic for the point of this webinar, but now you can see, okay, well, if there's a different conversion rate for those two different things, there's going to be different numbers that I'm going to need to hit from a marketing objective. Okay. Now, since we're on the achievable and the attainable, is this achievable for you? I can't answer that question. Evan can't answer that question. Only you can answer that question for you on if you think that this is attainable given where your business is at. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the majority of your goals are attainable. The only thing that's stopping you is right in here, right? It's in between the ears. It's that 6 inches that's going to be stopping you from hitting your goals. Okay. So is it realistic? Okay. Does it really seem worth your time? Right? Is it actually worth it for you to go and do this? Does it make sense? Is now the right time for you to be able to put in to be able to hit this goal? If you've got a big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG as what it's known, is it the right time for you to chase after that? And it's okay if it's not, by the way. It is A-okay if it's not. If you have a modest goal, let's say you want to grow by 10%. That's 1 million to 1.1 million. Cool. Right? If now's the right time to really double down, you want to go for 2 million and you're at 1 million, ask yourself, is now the right time? Because it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of commitment. Okay. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Right? No time better than right now. There it is. So let's go. I'd be curious, Cody, to hear what your goals are, for the year coming up. So
can I make one statement there? When it comes to this, the one thing that I'm reminded of, Jim Rohn was a great philosopher, teacher. And one of the things that he talked about was if he would have known how much it would have cost him going after some of the early goals that he did in life, he likely wouldn't have paid the price. Every goal that you ever go after, there's a price to pay in order to achieve that. With time, with money, with energy, with effort, right? Sacrifices in terms of what you're available for within your family. Everything has a price. And I think it's really important to take a step back and look at that number for you and say, is it worth it for me to go after that? Hopefully that's a yes, right? But it isn't always. So you need to take an honest look at that, because otherwise you're just going to set yourself up for failure by having a really big number and going after it and then giving up too much, or having a really big number that you're going after, starting to go after it, realizing what it's costing you, feeling bad about that, and then you're going to fall so far short of your goal because you really weren't willing to pay the price in the first place.
And that ties back into your why. Is it worthwhile for you to go after this and really, really go for it? Especially if you have had a big, hairy, audacious goal. See, you must be committed and you must want it, right? Again, these are introspective questions that you have to answer for yourself. And get it, and then get a divorce now, half gone. But it's a realistic thing, right? I mean, let's talk about something that's real in business for us entrepreneurs, and especially for those that if you're still at a home office, for example, right, and you have your family around, you have to make sure that you have a balance in there to be able to not necessarily put everything towards work, because at the end of the day, you're going to get burnt out. And if you're burnt out, you're letting both your family and your business down. Yeah. Right. So making sure you strike a balance accordingly between the two, so that way you can still feel invigorated to go after your goals. And if you only work, you're not going to be invigorated at the end of the day, because burnout is real. And that is something that I always will talk about. So time bound, right? What can you do? And this is important to know too, right? We chatted a little bit earlier about, okay, what's December versus July, right? So what's your next 6 months going to look like, right? What can you do 6 months from now? What can you do 6 weeks from now? But also ask yourself, what can you do today? Right? What can you do today to go after your goals? Well, oops. Take action, take action, take action. That's the biggest thing, right? None of this matters, by the way. Every single thing that we just talked about means jack shit if you don't take action.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't actually go out and move the needle forward in some way, it doesn't matter. It's wasted 45 minutes of your time. Maybe not. Maybe you took something out of it. I mean, maybe you looked at my beautiful face and you're like, ooh, that was awesome. So take action. All right. Moving into updating your marketing message, because now that you have these numbers in place, now it's the time to say, okay, how am I going to get these numbers? Where are they going to come from? They're not going to magically just fall out of the air into your lap. I mean, sometimes they do, but by and large, they will not. So you need to update your marketing message. And so some of the things that you can do is targeting after your ideal customer avatar. Okay. We've heard this term quite a bit, and this just makes sure that your messaging is consistent across the board to be able to go after the types of client that you want to work with all the time. Okay. So the 5 things that we're going to go into: the demographics, pains and frustrations, fears, goals and desires, and dreams and aspirations. Now, we're going to give you a lot of examples for the last 4, but part of that worksheet is to really go in to make sure that you ask yourself a lot of these questions and fill this out so that way you know. Now, when you have your ideal customer avatar, by the way, this allows your marketing company, because you should have a marketing company to handle your marketing. You're a technician in HVAC, you're not a marketing specialist. Get a marketing company. Doesn't have to be us, but I'd like it to be us. Just get one, as long as they're good at what they do and they're honest and trustworthy. This is going to help them, by the way, crafting your messages to make sure that everything stays consistent and on point. Okay. So the first one, demographics. This is a pretty easy layup one to find out, but it's finding out, is it the gender? Is it the male or the female? Right? Or the male or female, or maybe it's both, right? What is their age? Are they 35 to 55? Are they 45 plus? Are they 65 plus? Right? Figuring out the age of the ideal customer avatar. Now, this, by the way, is not every single customer that you work with, right? You set an ideal customer avatar so you can have your messaging resonate with the ideal customer avatar, but your messaging is also going to hit other people who might want to be this ideal customer. Okay. And sometimes you might come back and look, like I've had conversations with people that are like, I don't want to go after the rich areas. I want to go after some of the lower end areas of the city because that's who I resonate with. Cool. Right? That's their ideal customer avatar, but they know that. And now they can adjust their marketing accordingly. Okay. So keep that in mind. What's their income range? Where are they located? In this, I want to get detailed, right? What
Granular.
are the
Yep.
granular? Go on a granular level for the location. And if you're in, well, I'll use Calgary because that's where I'm at. There's a whole bunch of different communities within Calgary, and I might list out 10 communities that I want to go after, all concentrated to 1 or 2 areas of the city. Cool, but you know what? My targeting is still going to be all of Calgary, but my
Well, no.
messaging is going to relate with those areas.
Yes. And I'll tell you a real world example of how we set this up. So when we're running an ads account for Google, let's say, we split the ad account into 2 and we run a tier 1 list and a tier 2 list. And so they're targeted to different areas. Why do we do this? Because we want to be able to control how much ad spend is going to that list, right? If we have an area where the homes are 15 to 20 years old, kind of that prime range, or I guess for most areas, they would be built over 10 years. So between 10 and 20 years old, prime range for installs. Well, we want to hit that area hard for every kind of ad, right? Especially if it's a upper income, upper middle class kind of area. That is the perfect prime market to go after, right? Versus a brand new area. Well, we don't really want to spend very much in there. And the messaging needs to be talking about builder grade furnaces instead of something that's quieter, more efficient. It's not a mid range, it's a high end range, stuff like that, right? So you want to cater that message to the location.
One of the things actually when you look at Google, but you also look at Facebook ads is the double layering strategy.
Hmm.
Okay, so what a double layering strategy is, okay, let's all of Calgary, and we're going to send our ad out to all of Calgary. Um, and if you do a double layering, you actually have another layer of the same ad set that goes over, or even a different ad set that goes over top of the areas that you're specifically wanting to target. And so it's a double layering strategy where you can kind of hit a little bit more, on top of that. Um,
Michael, can you just elaborate a little bit more on your question?
All right, and we'll come back to that once we have
Yeah.
that elaboration on that. So, what is their marital status, right? Do they have kids? How many kids do they have? Now, in terms of the demographics and the interests, this is also like psychographics in terms of the interests, but also getting on a granular level on that too. And it just helps for a targeting aspect and the messaging crafting. So, what type of TV shows do they watch? Excuse me, what radio stations are they listening to? What did I say? TV shows? I think I said TV shows.
I think so.
Is there any authors that they're reading? Is there any influencers or pages that they want to follow? And making sure you build all of that out in terms of an interest level, because that's going to be able to, again, help with some of the messaging and the crafting, as well as some of the targeting that you can do with that. And so that's your demographics. Pains and frustrations. This StreamYard trips me out. With that pains and frustrations being smashed over there. So, well, no, for next time, share a screen instead.
Yep.
Hey, all good. So, pains and frustrations are things that that not necessarily hurtful in terms of like a physical way, but a mental and an emotional way. In terms of what are they frustrated about? What are their pain points in terms of things that they need done, right? So obviously, when their HVAC isn't working, right? Well, that's a pretty easy layup because their house isn't getting cooled in the summer and it's not getting heated in the winter. Well, that's a pretty straightforward one, right? Actually, one of a frustration that we see quite a bit is they can't get an HVAC company on the phone or even return their call, right? Think about it as a consumer for a second. I mean, how many times have you made a phone call to a business and it rings and rings and rings and rings and it goes to voicemail and you leave a message and they never call you back? That grinds my gears. You know what? I've made a lot of cold calls in my day, and on my messages I say nothing about cold call. I just say, hey, I have, I say my name, my phone number. If you give me a call back, I have a question about whatever service, right? So make it not sound like a marketer or a salesperson or whatever. And the amount of times I get calls back are like slim to none. And it's frustrating me as a consumer, and it probably frustrates you as a consumer as well. So making sure that you have somebody to answer the phone. Okay. And if it's you and you're answering the phone and you're going to be out working, make sure that you have an answering service that could potentially answer that for you. Or if you don't have that and you're not quite there yet, get a system that has missed call text back. What happens is somebody calls, they don't leave a message, the system will then text them back like instantly, hey, sorry, I missed your call. How can I help you? Now, boom, you've got that text because they get on the text. And when was the last time you didn't open up a text message, right? So that's a good, a little ninja hack there. So, they're tired of fixing their old equipment all the time, right? That's a frustration. Somebody comes in and they do a repair only to have a breakdown a month later, 2 months later, the next year, right? They're just too busy to deal with it on their own. They just want somebody to come out, do it quickly, and move on and get their shit back working, okay? Or they're even worried that the situation at the house could be unhealthy for their family, right? That's exactly like 100% people are worried about what's happening in their health. And yes, Cody, it is insane that people will not call back, right? It does happen more often than you think with a lot of organizations.
So, Michael, thank you for your question. So, the first question he asked was, does Google Guaranteed cancel out Google Ads? And I asked for further elaboration on that and what he meant. And he essentially said, is it a good idea to run targeted Google ads along with Google Guaranteed? And the answer is yes. And the reason why I say yes, and we'll get into this a little bit more next week, is the division of clicks on a search engine results page, right? You've got the guaranteed, you got the ads, you got the map, you got the organic listings. All of those are getting clicks. It's just not divided equally. So we're going to give you that full breakdown next week. But some people are going to click the guaranteed. Some people are going to click the ads, some in the map pack, some in the organic results. So you want to be everywhere you possibly can be for that consumer to make a decision to pick you.
Think about if you're in all four places, you're in the Google guaranteed at the top, and then they see your ad, and then you're listed 1, 2, or 3 in the map pack, and then you're listed 1, 2, or 3 in the organic search results. I mean, Google probably is smart enough not to show you in all four places, but wouldn't that be something if you had the power to be able to have that?
Google will take the money if you're going to give it to them.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's pains and frustrations. Okay. The other one are fears and implications. Okay. What are their fears, right? How can it stop them from moving forward? So being ripped off or overcharged, big one, big one, right? They're scared of that. That's a huge fear for them. So paying too much for something they could have gotten elsewhere, right? That's also another fear of theirs, right? They don't want to get ripped off, but and Cody Johnson, great point. The adding into the marketing plan. I mean, you could add that to yours, right? But financing, because there may be a fear factor paying on price, right? So that's also a really great point. Again, these are just a few random examples that we've pulled off the top of our head for that. And so fill out more, right? That's a great example of another one in terms of a pain point, because they're scared of the price, right? And so how do you break that down into a monthly amount that makes that more palatable for them? Okay. Having home damage, by faulty workmanship, or leaving a mess, is actually what that should have said. I thought I changed that, but apparently I didn't. So, contractor coming in and leaving shit all over the place, right? Or leaving stuff up in the attic when they're done because you don't go up there, right? Like those are some of their fears, right? Having to wait around for the text to arrive at the home. What if it takes? They give a window of, we'll be there between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Friday. Well, fuck, like I got a life, give me an actual concrete time. And I get time blocks too, by the way. That's obviously a smart thing to be able to do, but also having the ability to send them a text saying, on our way, be there in an hour, right? Or be there in 30 minutes with your systems, right? So being inconvenienced, trying to coordinate, with the company, that's a big thing. Some people don't like to call. Do you offer a texting platform to be able for them to book with you via text messages? That's I am still on my high horse until I am made proven right. That is going to be the way of future of booking things. I love booking things via text message because that means I don't have to pick up the phone and I can get to it when I want to get to it, right? So I see where my maid leave house in a mess. I did add that in there. So bill me more than they can afford, right? And that's also, we talked about Cody a little bit with the price, right? And they might end up with that fear. And so massaging those things and making sure that you put some of this into your messaging when you have that. So goals and desires, right? There's a whole list of things. This is just, this doesn't necessarily translate into your direct service based off of the HVAC industry. Like, hey, having an air conditioner that works isn't gonna look at that, live in a nicer, more luxurious car. That's funny.
That must be for LA.
Yeah, right. Anyways, living in a car, drive a nicer car, kids. This is the thing, I even prepared this a week ago. So this wasn't even like last minute preparing this. Like I prepared it and reread it today. But so these things don't necessarily translate into your direct product, but they can also have an effect on your ideal customer avatar in terms of the areas that you might want to be targeting, right? Mm-hmm. Or some of the things that you might be able to put into some of your messaging. Okay. So,
well, and it's a way to relate to them, right? So
yes.
if they have some big travel goals, well, having a financing plan makes sense because it allows them to save in the long run or in the short term so that they can go on that trip, right?
Yeah.
So being able to properly convey those things and what are the benefits behind what it is that you're selling, that's why that matters, right?
Yes.
Being able to speak to them so that they feel like you understand me, right? That's a feeling that you want to convey to them through your marketing, through your CSR on the phone, through the tech in the home, making the sale, doing the install, all of it.
You just reminded me when you said, you can convey to them with Austin Powers. You complete me, mini-me, you complete me. But case in point, if you can see your customers through your customer's eyes, then you can sell what your customer buys. Okay. That's I learned this lesson back very, very early when I was 19 years old selling Cutco knives. Maybe I was 20 when I started selling knives. Either way, young, and selling a $1,200 set of kitchen knives to a household. And I'm like, who the fuck buys knives for $1,200? Like, I can do a lot of partying with that money, right? That's what went through my head as a 19-year-old college kid. But when you put yourself into the shoes of the customers and understand what it's important to them, now you can speak their language, like Evan said, and you can convey that. And now you're on their side of it. And that's a big thing to be able to do. So, all right, last parts, and then we'll wrap things up here is crafting your message. I know I said like 45 minutes, but a little bit longer than we kind of get going and get excited about things. So crafting your message. All right. Why should somebody choose to do business with you versus the competition? And I'm not going to list out examples on this, by the way, because there's just so many different ways that this can go. But making sure that you follow these down, because now if you list out why somebody should choose to do business with you versus the competition, guess what? You can put that in your messaging. You can put that on your website. You can get your team, right? Your team bought into this because now they can speak the same language and everybody can be on the same page. Okay. So why do they choose to do business with you versus the competition, right? What benefits do you offer that your target customer avatar will resonate with? You know, that example, that homework item of going through that ideal customer avatar worksheet, this is going to help you with your benefits, right? That's the big thing of doing this exercise, because now you're going to have this information to be able to do that with, okay? What are your core values as an organization? Do you have your core values posted somewhere? Is it on your your sales presentations, your marketing material, right? Do you have that out there for all to see? Okay. This is what's going to set you apart. If you do this messaging and you craft this and you get crystal clear on these items, and by the way, you don't have to write like full amazing sentences on this shit, guys. Do bullet points, but then share this with your marketing team, because as marketers,
Share it with your team.
share it with your team. I already said that, but share it with
Yeah.
your marketing team too. Share
Yeah.
this entire thing with your team. Do a quarterly state of the company address where you talk about these things, right? Buy them into this bigger vision and this bigger picture, because it's only going to help you, and that's what's going to definitely set you apart from that. All right. So now we have your goal. You've got your why. You've got your SMART goal. You've got your ideal customer avatar, and you've crafted some of your messaging. Okay. Now what? Tune in next Tuesday or next Thursday for part 2, December 16th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll go part 2, where we can put it all together. The same place you're watching this one. So if you're watching this on YouTube, guess what? It's going to be there. You're watching it on my profile, it's going to be there. Evan's profile is going to be there. It's going to be everywhere. So make sure you set your calendars for that as we go into that. But wait, I did say that if you stuck around to the end, we would give you your internet marketing checklist for free. So that way you can go this. By the way, this is going to be a lot of, I can't speak for Evan. I don't know what, that is a teaser. It is, Cody. We've got to get you back next week, right? Where we put the plan together, right? Next week is all about the marketing aspect of things, right? We've set your vision. You've got it there. Now, how do you execute, right? How do you get to these numbers on a marketing standpoint? And that's what we're going to go over next week. In order to get that, onpurposemedia.ca/checklist. I will put that up on the screen here really quickly. So onpurposemedia.ca. Whoops, that's the wrong one. I edited that one. So I was trying to do it really quickly. It's been nice not having to touch any of this stuff on the back end side of things. So onpurposemedia.ca/checklist. You can download that guy in case you're not going to make it next week. But of course, you're going to be here because this is awesome. And you thought you got a ton of value from it. Now, if you thought you got a ton of value from it and you're like, okay, I just want help doing this, I'm already in. Well, I'm going to shamelessly plug us. Go ahead and book yourself a call on purposemedia.ca book a call. That's book-a-call, and jump on the phone. Let's have a conversation, and we'll go from there. So
a couple things. One, I do want to answer Michael's question here. So he asked, should your marketing team be different than your SEO team? So I've seen this work both ways. If you are working with an SEO team that they handle and are great at the other areas of marketing, having it all under one roof makes a lot of sense because it's easy for them to communicate the same messaging, and you're not going to get a bunch of different stuff going out there all over the place that's completely different than what your core message needs to be. So there is a benefit to that. And I've also seen it where, a company's really great at SEO, but they're just kind of okay at Facebook ads, or they don't have the automations in place to be able to run it effectively, right? And so sometimes it's beneficial to have someone who's great at SEO and then find someone else who's great at Facebook ads and then find someone else who's great at PPC. So there is no one size fits all there. You really have to look at who is your provider. Are you happy with them? Are they providing great results? Do they offer other services, or should I look elsewhere for that? But it just takes having honest conversations with people and seeing, have you done this before? Proof of success, things like that, right? Do they know what they're talking about? Can they provide the result for you? There you go. If they don't want to offer it, then definitely you need to look elsewhere for it. If you're happy with them as an SEO provider, then keep it there. Sometimes you can save money as well. So that's the other thing to really factor in is if someone's really great at SEO and they're pretty good at a paid advertising strategy, well, the savings that you're going to get by doing two services with one company is probably going to make up for any smaller bit of result that they might be able to provide, right? So there's a couple thoughts there. What's our specialty? We've hired everything. So we have our own paid ad strategists, where it comes from Google ads and Facebook ads. We've trained them on how to do that. SEO, website design. We've got developers, we've got designers. We do it all.
And Facebook
the great
ads.
thing about having a business partner is that when we started, I dove into websites and SEO. Thaddeus dove into Facebook. And then between the two of us, the keyword strategy, the negative keywords, being able to do Google ads, Thaddeus creative copy, ad copy, we were able to create Google ads off of that. So that's where our specialties kind of lie in is internet marketing and really strategy. I love strategy. This shit fires me the fuck up. In case you can't tell. So that kind of answers that. In terms of what to do for next week, I wanted to leave you with this. Make sure you dive into this worksheet and you've got all of your numbers, because this is really going to help for next week. We're going to dive into what are some different ways that you can go about splitting up that marketing budget and what are the areas that you should be attacking. And we're going to split it up based on where you want to be as a business, right? A $1 million business, the strategy is going to be different than a $3 million business, which is going to be different than a $10 million business, right? So we want to be able to split that up a little bit so that you can see, for my business and where I'm at, this is what I need to focus on. So make sure you have all those numbers written down. Make sure you've got it all written out to a T. And if you don't know what the numbers should be and you didn't have proper tracking in place, reach out to us and we'll be able to give you some ballpark numbers. Cool?
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. So, well, that's a wrap. And Michael, yes, we should definitely talk. I just love Stream. I love StreamYard. It's just such a great technology. And again, if you have any questions, I will wrap that up again and drop that here. If you do have any questions, feel free to text us 719-824-1377. You can reach out to Evan's Facebook profile here. Drop him a message at facebook.com/Hoffman Evan. And I'm pretty sure that mine is just facebook.com/Thaddeus Tondu. So feel free to look us up or message whatever platform that you're watching on. If it's the HVAC Success Secrets page or within the group or the YouTube, send a message that way. So we'll be happy to help and happy to chat. Till next time. Cheers.